world has understood the importance of avoiding a global warming. The talk is about how to reduce the carbon emissions. And I agree, it is important. But if we will be able to create circular material flows, we will be able then also to reach the ambitions set in the Paris Agreement. So Richard Attenborough, together with Professor Johan Rockström, did in their film Breaking Boundaries, the Science of Our Planet, highlight the importance of creating circular material flows, not only to reduce the carbon emissions, but also to avoid to overshoot all other 9 planetary boundaries. So therefore, to create circular material flows will be a crucial component going forward in order to both secure the reduction of carbon dioxide, securing our biodiversity and desertification of our rivers. And I will use this white powder to demonstrate how this is possible. This calcium carbonate has been developed by scientists here in Estonia, where we use what today is waste, add carbon dioxide, and then produce it, avoiding the need to dig up limestone from the bedrock. We will need circular solutions going forward, and I will now give you the story how this powder will create this possibility. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Per Larshans. I work at the environmental company Ragn-Sells, a Swedish family business originating 140 years back. Once, we just collected garbage. Today, we are a recycler in today's linear economy. In 2016, we made a decision to have a new direction, to become a raw material supplier and a detoxifier in a future circular economy. We are now investing a lot of our profits into new solutions that will make us to run in that direction, as well as we are also transforming the society into a circular economy. Let me give you some examples. Today we mine phosphorus, even if we have phosphorus running under our feet. Here we have developed a solution that will be able to produce phosphorus fertilizer directly from the sewage sludge with a higher quality than you can today find on the market. Potassium, calcium, and sodium, we have developed a solution to extract out of fly ashes. And when it comes to the nitrogen, we have developed a solution to produce nitrogen directly from the wastewater. This ultra-pure and carbon-neutral calcium carbonate are produced of old shale ash remains after electricity production. This is our most prestigious project that we have developed together with the Estonian state and scientists. In the world today, the green movement are growing, and this is a full attention from the President and the Prime Minister of Estonia. We're not just talking about words. What we see is real deeds that are being done. Buckle up, let me take you to Estonia. We're now sitting here at the former summer residence of Peter the Great, but also the residence of the first presidents of the Republic of Estonia. We will not talk about the history, now we'll talk about the future instead. But let's take a first look in 2018. Then a Christmas card was sent from the President of the Republic of Estonia, Kersti Kaljulaid. And it arrived in many of the homes and offices in Estonia, and I need to take it out and read it directly. It said, "We are the first generation to know that we are destroying our planet, and the last who can do anything about it." And it really created a lot of reactions here in Estonia. And I believe this was one of the first presidents around the world that really stated this. It was ahead of Greta Thunberg and her movement. So therefore, I'm very proud to have the honor to talk to you. Dear President, collaboration, I believe, is something that is your signum. And if we really want to fix the global warming, I believe that collaboration will be the key component going forward. How would you evaluate so far the progress that we as people, communities, nations have made in understanding the severity of the climate warming?
Well, it has taken us definitely more than half a century to consolidate our position that we are indeed destroying this planet. But the positive thing is, today we really are consolidated. You don't find many political leaders globally who would say this doesn't matter. And we also see that concrete proposals to do something about it are coming up. Well, notably, 60% of the global economy is covered by some kind of climate pledge, which, by the way, helps a lot to convince people who do not believe in climate change. Because, you don't have to believe in climate change. You only have to know that all your partners, trading partners, the ones with whom you trade in services as well, they simply will not buy goods and services which are produced not in a clean way. So actually, we can now exit the phase of building consensus and kind of making sure that everybody is on the same page and believes. But there is one risk. If politicians, maybe because the CO2 price is currently high, or maybe because they have a nice and shiny and totally new gas installation in their country and they are building nice and shiny turbines, which are not maybe also compatible with hydrogen as a fuel, they might start fluctuating, might start mixing the signals, saying, yes, we want clean, but not so quickly. Yes, we want clean, but gas is cleaner than coal. This is the risk. But if we do not actually mess up the clarity of the signal which we have right now, 2021, I believe we can make this planet a safer place.
That sounds very good. I would like to have, out of your extremely wide experience, if you can bring one example of how transformation was brought to life, making a former environmental burden to become instead a salt.
Freons. I think this is the most hopeful example where globally we were able to stop growing the ozone hole on the poles, which means not above our heads mostly. So this is one, but it's a lonely, stark example. There are more, of course, locally, nationally. Europe has collectively managed to clean up our rivers after industrialization. And the rivers flow from one country to another, so it must have been a difficult task as well.
What is your opinion, the key factors when it comes to accelerate transformation? Is it legal framework? Is it mind shift change? Or is it maybe that we invest more in scientific and research?
Frankly speaking, this transformation happens because the voters demand. The voters of the democratic nations, and since only free people are really creative than most productive economies, which means richest economies, they are democracies. And voters in democracies, they demand, saving the planet, cleaner environment. And even if there are, of course, fluctuations in this kind of opinion, thinking of high energy prices right now, many people might think it's not maybe what we wanted. But if the leaders of the nations are smart in handling the side effects, really helping those people in difficulty, using means test rather than blanket measures to make sure that the transformation is affordable, I believe we can keep the public support. Because after all, in democracies, it's that simple. Politicians do what voters ask them to do. And of course it differs. Here in Estonia, it's now, I believe, this year, the elections, local elections, were the first ones where really the green issues, the urban development issues, the space where people really live in were really important. But the important part is that while we move towards the cleaner planet, we remember that there are actually most nations globally who have never benefited from industrialization and who should therefore not carry the burden, but should be allowed access to green technologies. One of my ideas or thoughts, which I think could actually be really good for as a low-hanging fruit, is that, In less developed countries, it's very common to have electricity grids which use really dirty generators, and they don't function anyway 24/7 like we are used to. These people are used to electricity which has intermittency. Why not provide with development support all such microgrids with solar systems? The quality of the service will not actually decrease for those people. The cleanliness will arise. And this is something which I think we could do. Similarly, technology. Technology, for example, when previously you needed, let's say, you had to purify some cities' waters, you had to build huge, millions of worth of a sewage plant. Now you can instead stack together small house-based purification systems and link them through digital technologies so that you can, stack up, not invest initially upfront so much, but achieve similar results. And now, when I talk about connecting and connected technologies, this is very important. It has to be trusted by citizens. And that's why in Tallinn we organized this autumn the Digital Summit, which was based on trusted connectivity, consensus building. There were present OECD, European Union Council in the presence of Charles Michel, OECD Matthias Cormann, also the Secretary of Commerce from United States of America. They came together to build consensus that the technology has to be trusted, which means it does what it says it does and it doesn't do anything else. And the good old blue dot, now if wanted together with environmental label on it as well, could serve as the physical token so that if you see blue dot, you know this kind of connectivity you can trust. Because this kind of digital architecture on roads, in ports, on railways, in grids, this is where efficiency comes from. And this is which lowers all kind of peaks and makes, the less lost capacity in the system. And that's why I would really like to emphasize technology, but it has to be trusted connectivity.
And it needs to be sustainable. It needs to make sure that we then produce resources that are needed in the future.
Absolutely. But this, I believe, we have decided. 2050 has to be no CO2 emissions in Europe, China, 2060, and so on, so on. So this we have already decided. And what is very encouraging for the Baltic Sea region is that Nordic Council of Ministers has years ago procured a study which said that Nordic and Baltic countries, if we build a really good Baltic Sea offshore grid, could actually be producers and sellers of green energy, even if we use wind and pump storage. Yes, there are fancier things, heat to power, power to heat, hydrogen, maybe. But even with these two elements, this area could be net exporter of energy. It's very important to recognize this, that we just have to go quickly. We have the technology. We don't have to develop technology.
It is possible to switch the energy system, that is what you were saying.
Yes.
And we need to do it now.
Yes, because actually this market will be saturated too. And if the Nordic-Baltic region wants to remain competitive, then for us it's extremely important to move quickly. What is the difficulty here is that big Central European nations are used to responding to public demand with public money. We want here in Nordics market-based solution, which means we create grid, but it's private sector who makes production and storage. And this is the argument which we have to put on table also in the European Union, that we need this CO2 levy on the border because we want to invest against the market. Those who invest against the will of the people and public money, they don't have the same needs, and we have to compare and understand each other.
In the upcoming climate conference, COP26, we will present and have examples from several countries how wastewater treatment plants in today's economy will become resource treatment plants in the future economy, not reducing the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen being produced, making sure that we can produce fertilizers for the agriculture. That is total mind shift. And I think that is what you were talking about. We need to do transformation quickly.
We all know that mining mobile phones will yield more gold than mining gold ore Yet we somehow don't manage to switch. And I think we really have to do, these are really simple things. Nobody's life quality, even the ability to consume, needs to suffer from these kind of changes. And this is what we indeed should do.
Do you think that our economies, and it's whether if you talk about European Union or nations or regions, are we ready to really implement circular economy principles? If you say yes, then why and how?
I'm not sure that each and everybody, let's say among 400 million Europeans, is ready or ever will be ready to use products from circular economy. But frankly, they don't care. As I said, I mean, who cares where the gold was mined, which is in my mobile phone? Who cares whether limestone, which has been used somewhere, or carbonate as a fertilizer, has been used somewhere, came from Estonian oil shale ash or was mined elsewhere? Nobody cares as soon as the product is poor, safe, and easy to use.
We are now have a global warming coming. We know that is happening. But in spite of that, are you an optimist? Will we be able to solve it? Will we be able to create a future for future generations that is based on hope?
Well, I cannot answer that question because nobody knows where we are on the curve. We know that the climate change is accelerating and there are all the time globally adjustments for the worse. And we all know that environmental processes run in this kind of hockey stick shape, and we don't know where we are on this curve. So it would be really wrong to say that, don't worry, we are only there in the beginning and we still have ample time to change. Frankly, we don't know. We need to first get ourselves, into clean economies and then hope for the best. We don't know really. And if then our sensors will keep telling us that, we have overcome some certain inertia of the climate system all in all, then we also probably need to really quickly roll back the amount of CO2 in the environment, probably by purificating environment from CO2. Luckily, these technologies exist, and they are not anymore more than 20-30% more expensive than is CO2 cost itself. So the technologies are there, and if that is necessary, and I'm afraid it might still be necessary, otherwise this climate change curve will still keep going, and we cannot say we are safe. Doing all this, I think we could actually, leave this planet in clear consciousness when our time comes. But the trouble is if we everybody take a kind of 20 or 100-year perspective and therefore do nothing. I hope we don't. I hope there is enough responsibility in our societies to think long term. Am I convinced it is so? Not really, but I think we need to keep doing the best we can, and there is simply no other way.
I think it's a very good end. We need to act now. And I will take your words that we are really the first generation to know that we are destroying our planet and the last that can do something about it.
Well, indeed. And I've seen that people from different walks of life recognize this. Those who deal with, for example, the right of women and children on this planet, they are worried that the climate effects are more stronger on those who are not the best off, normally weaker in the society, women, children, adolescents. It's very important for me that we also, while we are in the process of things still getting worse, and once we are in the process of making things better, we always think that the side effects for those who are not so well off have to be managed and handled. Here in Estonia, in Scandinavia, in Nordic countries, in Africa, globally, we have to handle the side effects to make sure that the cost is equally distributed, fairly distributed even, I would say.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
If all goes well, this white powder will become Estonia's contribution to reduce the risk of a global warming. This ultra-pure calcium carbonate are produced out of oil shale ashes. Oil shale rock incineration has been a dominating energy production in Estonia, but now we see changes. We see that more and more energy sources are coming from other places. But besides the energy production, it has also created environmental problems. In the northeastern part of Estonia, we have now more than 600 million tons of oil shale ashes being stockpiled, but nobody knows how to deal with them. When it comes to the incineration and the energy production, we have now received good news. The Prime Minister of Estonia has been very clear that there will be an end date. By 2035, the energy production from oil shale rock will be stopped. So, Estonian attitude in this very complicated climate situation the world now are facing are admirable. I really appreciate what you're doing. For a long time, Estonia has been really dependent on high emission-related energy production. On the table now, there's a decision to stop the energy production. And this is what also the local call Pöxit, inspired maybe from Brexit. At the same time, the alternatives when it comes to oil shale energy production are not cheap, and it's also difficult to be dependent on the neighbors. How Estonia improves its carbon emissions the years to come, when it comes to year 2030, 2040 and 2050, and the overall vision for innovation and circular economy, we will now directly ask the Estonian Prime Minister, Kaja Kallas. Great to be here with you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start by giving the listeners the perspective first. What is the history and the background to the energy production of Estonia?
As you pointed out in your introduction, we have been heavily relying on oil shale, which is a very polluting fossil fuel. This oil shale production started 100 years ago, and it's mostly based in eastern part of Estonia. So it is a fossil fuel that is used for electricity production as well, and so we have large mines there for getting the oil shale out of the land, and of course it's all very polluting and damaging to the environment. As we are moving towards a cleaner future, then of course a big question for us comes regarding this oil shale. We have taken a goal that we will phase out using oil shale in the electricity production by 2035 and in the energy production altogether by 2040. And of course it's not easy because there are a lot of jobs related to this. And these people are very, they are very hardworking people who have very specific skills. So in order to make this transformation easy, you need to invite new investments to that region that require the same set of skills. And we are definitely doing this. We have, from the European funds, we have the Just Transition Fund for getting out of oil shale, and then the big question comes, where does our electricity come from? When we had oil shale, then it was all concentrated in one region and even in one energy source. The future should be more energy sources, more different energy or electricity production all over the land. But then, of course, this brings about the question, everybody says that, of course, we like green, but not in my backyard. Do it in Ida-Virumaa or somewhere else where I can't see it. But the key is the mix of energy sources, but also mix of production sites as well.
What made you change the mind of the Estonian government to make the drastic transformation to leave the energy production, and what does it mean in practice?
We are a small country, and we could say that, our deeds don't really influence the bigger picture. But we feel here that the bigger picture comes from lots of small pictures, and we definitely want to be part of it. The other side is that we have a saying, those who are late will get nothing. And if we see that the global direction or trend is towards a more greener future, it is also the European trend, then of course we don't want to be left behind. We want to find Estonian niche where we could be strong, where we could be number one in the world. Is it clean energy? Is it clean tech? Is it some kind of elements or services that contribute to the overall green transition? And therefore we took this clear direction. And of course, what is important to our people is that cleaner air, also better living environment, and this is all beneficial. And not to mention right now, when we have very high electricity prices, renewable energy is much cheaper. If we would have more renewable energy production, then the electricity would be also cheaper, and everything needs electricity nowadays.
I agree with you. It sounds like it will be easier to now make the new investment because it's easier to have them make profitable.
If you look into history of electricity, then you see that, or energy as such, you see that the big changes always come with the crisis, because otherwise you are in your comfort zone and there is no push for making a change, because reforms are never easy and nobody likes to change. But if there's a push, then something new happens. We saw this with the wind mills, that you didn't really have good wind energy production, but then when you had energy crisis, then this technology also developed. We saw this with nuclear, and we are seeing this now as well. We have crises, and crises are always beginnings of something new.
I totally agree. But let's not talk numbers. What is the target when it comes to CO2 emissions saving, and how do you plan to reach it?
So Estonia has already done a lot if you compare to the 1990s base that is taken. So we have reduced our CO2 emissions by 72% compared to the 1990s. But we still plan to do more. We have a goal to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. And as I said before, regarding oil shale, we also have targets to phase out oil shale in electricity by 2035 and in energy production altogether in 2040.
What will then become the most important energy source after oil shale, and what will the footprint be from that one?
I'm a firm believer that we need an energy mix, because what we see is that some energy sources are balancing each other. When you have strong winds, then maybe you don't have enough sun, or maybe they are at the same time, but maybe they are also disappearing at the same time, the wind and the sun at the same time. So we definitely need energy production of different renewable energy sources. And for us in Estonia, a big question is always biomass. We have a lot of forest land, but we also have a lot of residue forest that you can't really make anything out of, but you can use it for production of energy. And biogas is also one option. But I think the overall answer is energy mix, different sources, but at different sites as well.
What is the Estonian take when it comes to innovation and circular economy principles? What do you see are the larger challenges, and what are the biggest lessons learned you have done the last years?
Circular economy is definitely part of this bigger global green transition, how we use the materials and reuse the materials we have been using. So clearly, what motivates the people is money. Either they save money or they have to pay more money if they are not doing the steps. So one big challenge is to bring people on board. The other part of this is, of course, the technology part, and what do we make out of those materials, and how can we really reuse everything. And I also think that here our companies definitely have a very clear niche to come up with different ideas. When I've been traveling around Estonia, then there are very good examples of making new products out of the recycled materials. And I think the awareness of this must be risen.
What would your message be to other leaders in other countries that are on the verge of large transformations, where there still are variables and uncertainties in the world?
My message is that we can do this together. We are countries of different shapes and sizes, but we all can do our share. And we can also share our knowledge and experience about the difficulties that one or the other countries have regarding this, and how we have learned from this and done something better. So I think together we can succeed.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist about the possibilities in the future that we save the planet for the future generation?
I'm always an optimist. If we do our share, if we do the necessary steps, we definitely can save the planet and keep it to our next generations.
Thank you so much for this small talk, dear Prime Minister.
Thank you.
So how can this ultra-pure, carbon-neutral calcium carbonate then be produced? It has been developed by scientists both here in Estonia and in Sweden. But I would like to invite a person that can explain more details about how it is done. Now with me the person responsible for the oil shale ash project, Alar Saluste. We are talking about these ash mountains now, but my first question to you is, what do they contain?
The ash mountains contain mainly 4 elements: calcium, silica, aluminium, and magnesium. Out of those 4, the calcium is the most interesting one. That is for 2 reasons. First reason is that this calcium makes this ash a hazard to the environment because it's very reactive. And the second reason is, if we would want to extract something from the ash, we would need to remove the calcium first anyways, because of the reactive nature. If we use the calcium from the ash, we can join it with CO2 and we can make calcium carbonate.
So we're using carbon dioxide as an input that we put into what's today's waste and then produce calcium carbonate. Please tell me more about this process.
So what we are doing is we are extracting calcium from the ash using a water-based extraction. The calcium becomes liquid, and then we introduce CO2, and we have calcium carbonate. What is very nice is that we are using 2 waste streams, the ash and the calcium from it, and also CO2. And we put them together, and we have a fantastic product for the market, something that is used in everyday items, calcium carbonate.
Now we have heard Alar Saluste explain how we produce this calcium carbonate out of oil shale ash remains. We put in carbon dioxide into the ashes, and then it will be produced. But what's more interesting is also that we can avoid digging up limestone from the bedrock. Today, the production in the world to produce calcium carbonate are by digging up annually 22 million tons of limestone. Coming over now to our challenge going forward. If we will be able to pull off the project, we will be very dependent on sourcing carbon dioxide. So where can we get that carbon dioxide for our first plant that is planned to be up and running from 2025. Let us now listen to the Energy Commissioner, Kadri Simson.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Brussels. Almost 2 years ago, we launched the most important initiative of the von der Leyen Commission, the European Green Deal. With this, we committed to become the first climate-neutral continent by 2050 while making our economy more resilient and competitive. We presented the Green Deal strategy 11 days after taking office. This is unusual, but the need for this extraordinary rapid action becomes clear when we look at the latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. There is no time to lose, and the need for ambitious climate action is stronger than ever. So, since December 2019, we have been busy putting the pieces of our climate policy in place. Energy, of course, has an important role to play in this, as it is responsible for 75% of EU's emissions. We have looked at the key areas we need to focus on to make the clean energy transition a reality: hydrogen, offshore energy, renovation, methane, and energy system integration. We have adopted a strategy on each to have a clear sense of direction. This July, we presented one of the biggest legislative packages in the Commission history, known as the Fit for 55 package. This is a collection of concrete measures to deliver the Green Deal and cut our greenhouse gas emissions at least 55% already by 2030. The energy sector is again central, as we are proposing new, more ambitious targets for renewable energy and energy efficiency, and upgrade our policies in these areas. But it's not only energy. We are reshaping our whole societies, from agriculture and transport to industry and taxes. We must become climate neutral, but also better at reuse and recycling, and generally kinder to the planet. To get there, we need new, smarter ways of doing things. I am therefore always glad to participate in events that showcase solutions that are both practical and exciting, bringing our climate and environmental goals one step closer. The oil shale ash project Ragn-Sells has been developing and is presenting today at the COP is a fascinating application of the carbon capture and utilization technology, a technology that is key to our decarbonization effort. I am, of course, especially happy that this project is located in my home country, because I know firsthand the issues you are trying to solve with it. Ida-Viru County needs and deserves initiatives like this. Now, let me tell you why I just said that carbon capture, utilization and storage is so important for us in the Commission. The European climate law that entered into force in July this year made our goal to achieve climate neutrality by 2050 legally binding. In practice, this means that all emissions, even those very hard or very expensive to remove, will have to be somehow reined in. This is where CCUS technologies come in. First, these technologies will be particularly important for the sectors where other alternatives for decarbonization do not yet exist or are very expensive, like in the cement or steel production. For these hard-to-abate sectors, CCUS could be the most cost-efficient or even the only way of cutting emissions. Second, some sectors of the economy could never eliminate their emissions. They will continue to occur, say, in agriculture or some industries. Even if that is the case, we can still achieve climate neutrality. When the CO2 could be captured and permanently stored, we would be able to create carbon removals that balance the emissions left in the system. Third, significant quantities of hydrogen will be needed for some hard-to-carbonize sectors, for example, steel making, chemicals, or refineries. The ultimate objective is to use only green hydrogen from renewable sources. However, blue hydrogen produced with carbon capture could become a good bridging solution actually speeding up the creation of a hydrogen market. Finally, captured CO2 could be used in products such as chemicals or building materials. This is precisely the purpose of Ragn-Sell's project, turning the old heaps of oil shale ash into a useful chemical component with captured CO2. It is a great example of carbon circularity. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Commission, we know the potential of the CCUS technologies. By 2050, we expect up to 600 million tons of CO2 to be captured. But it's not enough to recognize this potential. We also need to make it real. This is why we are supporting CCUS on the European level. Pipelines transporting CO2 can get EU support under the Trans-European Energy Networks regulation and from the Connecting Europe facility. We are funding the CCUS project network that provides its members with a platform to exchange knowledge and experience. The emission trading system provides an incentive for CCS projects, and the Innovation Fund is an important source of funding both for CCS and CCU projects. There has been also continued support for research, innovation and development, mainly under Horizon Europe. There are also some new measures to expect in the near future. Already next month, we will issue a communication focusing on upscaling and kickstarting projects for better carbon management in ecosystems and industries by 2030. This document will start a reflection on the integration of carbon removals into EU compliance frameworks and markets beyond 2030. An important step in this direction will be the legislative proposal for the certification of carbon removals planned for 2022. I do hope that the oil shale ash project will be able to make use of the policy measures we adopted to speed up the deployment of CCUS. In return, I hope that projects like yours will create new market opportunities for innovative industrial sectors in Europe and stimulate new carbon value chains. I sincerely believe there will be many more projects like this to come. I wish you best of luck and a very successful COP. Thank you.
Did I say that this white powder was eatable? It is, to be honest, already used today in tablets or in soy milk. It is used as a filler in construction material, like in paints or in floorings. So the question now, is there a demand for this product to be used? Are there someone that would like to replace today's virgin production of calcium carbonate with this carbon-neutral product? Let us ask Marquis Arnaud, the Chief Sustainability Officer for Tarkett, the global flooring company, why they are so interested in sourcing a carbon-neutral product.
For the last 140 years, Tarkett has been producing many innovative flooring solutions on sport surfaces, be it vinyl, linoleum, wood, or artificial turf. Every day, we sell 1.3 million square meters of flooring. Climate and circular economy is part of our strategy. We are therefore very happy to cooperate on research that supports our society's transformation. We are cooperating with Ragn-Sells because their project has three advantages. First of all, this cooperation will use waste that heavily impact the environment. By using the waste, we are contributing to clean the environment. Second of all, when others see waste, we see opportunity. That's why we work with our customers to take back and recycle flooring. That's why we investigate innovative solutions with other industries to turn waste into valuable materials. Third of all, we use large quantity of calcium carbonate to produce our flooring. Ragn-Sells technology will transform ash into calcium carbonate by capturing carbon dioxide. By using it into our flooring, we will contribute to reducing the greenhouse gas emission in the world.
Could you envision now, 100 years from now, how would your industry work then?
In the future, we will only sell flooring and sport surfaces that are designed to be fully and easily recycled so that no single square meter will be sent to incineration. Instead, every square meter will keep a high value. And thanks to the recycling of our floors, the carbon dioxide captured by Raglan cell process will also be recycled and therefore will never be released in the atmosphere.
Please tell me more then about what's happening now. What is the next step? How can we make it happen?
So far we have successfully done laboratory tests, we have done piloting, and we have also done engineering work. But now we need to focus on the details. We need to get the environmental permits for the plant. We need to source the CO2, because the ash mountains are there, standing there, 600 million tons, but we need to find the CO2. And what is the most important is that we need to continue engineering a plant that will have no emissions to the air or to the water.
So, environmental permit, how to get the carbon dioxide, and then design the plant. Big challenges are ahead of us. A final question I do have. In spite of everything that is happening in the world, the climate crisis, how do you see in the future? Do we have hope?
I think we always have hope. And us as a humankind, if we work together, all the big challenges that are ahead of us can be overcome. The important thing is that we start with the small steps and always move forward.
To sum up everything, this white powder has the potential to be a lifeline for the planet. But this is just the beginning of a very long journey. First and outmost, we need to make sure that we can build the first plant. Secondly, we need to make sure also that we can source carbon dioxide to this very first plant. Besides that, the stockpiled ashes contains not just calcium, also silica, aluminium and magnesium. All those elements will also need to be converted into products in the future. In order to make everything happen, we need to collaborate. We heard from high-level people here how important it is for Estonia and also for the planet. We have the market demand. The market would like to have carbon-neutral products. But most of all, collaboration going forward will be the most important and enable this climate-friendly production to be set up. This powder has the potential to support us to reach the ambitions set in the Paris Agreement, but also to clean up the surroundings around Narva. So going forward, the future will depend on if we can collaborate and enable it. Thank you so much.